Right, March of the Living. How important it is for a mission of reminding people of Holocaust?
The problem with the March of the Living, the problem the March of the Living is trying to address is apathy and indifference. It's interesting, the Holocaust has two opposite lessons. The first lesson is a lesson of despair and pessimism. The Holocaust teaches us that people are capable of such evil that you and I can't even imagine what they're going to do. Because right now, as you and I are sitting on this bench, there are people around the world who are thinking of such evil plots to visit upon humanity, we couldn't even imagine it. Could you have imagined 2-3 years ago groups like ISIS would have arisen, who are torturing and murdering thousands upon thousands of people in cold blood and posting their videos online and glorifying that? So we learned from the Holocaust that people have the capacity for evil that is almost infinite. But we also learned from the Holocaust the exact opposite. That people have the capacity for goodness and nobility and courage that's also almost unbelievable. And so the Holocaust has two messages for us. The first message is not to be naive about humanity, not to be complacent, not to necessarily trust that things will work out, but to confront evil when it raises evil head. But the other message is that we have the capacity within ourselves to do incredible acts of courage and kindness, like Irina Sendler and Vladislav Bartoszewski and the family of Markova, the Ulmas, as you know, who risked their lives and lost their lives to try to save Jews. So these two messages are as important as they were right after the Holocaust. Today they're as important as they were right after the Holocaust, I would say.
Right now we are sitting in Krakow, Poland.
Yes.
And as we are sitting here, there is a war going on in our neighborhood in Ukraine.
Yes.
And in this very country, there are movements, far-right movements, like Right Sector or Misanthropic Division, and they have a lot of support from the society. And there are such movements all over the world. Do you think that they pose a threat to our society?
I think any extreme movement, left-wing or right-wing, pose a threat to society. One of my heroes I mentioned earlier was Vladislav Bartoszewski. Righteous among the nations, he was imprisoned by the Nazis, imprisoned by the communists, and he said the following: the truth does not lie on the right, the truth does not lie on the left, the truth lies where the truth lies. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
And so many people have these ideological boxes. If I'm on the left, I've got to check all these boxes. I'm on the right, I've got to check all these boxes. No, truth is far more complex than simplistic right-wing or left-wing formulations. Another one of my heroes was Krystyna Łatusza. She was born in Poland. She was a Polish patriot. She was a Polish Roman Catholic. She had a Jewish boyfriend. She was caught by the Nazis and she was tortured and executed. I believe it was 1944 in Germany. I think it was Halle, Germany. She was such an impressive human being that her German jailer, started a pen pal relationship with her own daughter. And after the war, some of these letters survived. And one of these letters, she says the following: I am a religious Roman Catholic. I am a patriotic Pole. She gave up her life for her country. She was beheaded. But if any of these identities come in the way of my humanity, my kindness, and my compassion, I would give it up in a moment because I'm first a human being. I'm first a human being. What does that teach us? Political identities, national identities are beautiful. I'm Canadian, I'm Jewish, you're Polish and Christian, and these are identities to be celebrated and to be appreciated and to be cherished. But if those identities become more important than your humanity or my humanity, it's not a good idea. So nationalism is good up to a point, but our common humanity comes first. I learned that from Krystyna Łatusza, a patriotic Pole who gave up her life for her country.
Right, so what do you think we should do every day to try to prevent such atrocities?
I think we need to be able to celebrate our identities without putting down others. And we need to celebrate our identities while acknowledging that we have flaws in our past. Poles have flaws in their past. Canadians have flaws in their past. You know, our treatment of First Nations was tragic. First Nations are the Indians, formerly called the Indians. First Nations, tragic. Our own Prime Minister of Canada said when he was accused of giving too much money to the Indians or First Nations, he said, I'm not giving too much money to them, I'm keeping them at near starvation levels. Proud. This is over 150 years ago, which our Prime Minister of the country said. I mean, that's how unconscious we were of treating our own First Nations people. So we can do two things. We can say, our country's the greatest in the world, we've been perfect all the time. Or we can say, no, our country's great, but we made some mistakes and we're going to learn from our past. And Poland needs to do the same thing. Great country, wonderful history, incredible traditions, beautiful music, Chopin, everything. But we've made mistakes on the way as well. Let's acknowledge those mistakes, because when you do that, you get much more respect from yourselves and the world.
Right. So, do you think that Polish government, the one that is present right now, and the former ones, are they doing enough to keep the memory, to teach people about Holocaust?
You know what? I'm not an expert on every government. There's a very famous quote that says, no matter who you vote for, the government still gets elected, right? You get the joke.
Yeah.
I will say that I've seen a remarkable transformation in Poland since I first came in '89. When I came in '89, the country was still under communist rule. The country was black and white, literally. I mean, there was no color. People were afraid to speak. It was just, everything was so stunted and so stilted. And when I went to Auschwitz-Birkenau, I think I saw the mention of Jew once. Poles were killed, Hungarians were killed, Czechs were killed, French were, whoever. Jews? Yeah, maybe some Jews. No, the truth is most of those people killed in Auschwitz were killed because they were Jews. But what's happened over the last 30 years, Auschwitz-Birkenau is an example. There's tremendous prominence given to Jewish suffering, but throughout the country, I've seen a renewal of pride in the Jewish heritage that once existed here, and a willingness to reconcile and create good relations between Poles and Jews. So I think over the last 30 years, I have seen a remarkable transition from communism, which was very anti-Semitic and very anti-Jewish, to a free and democratic Poland, which for the most part has embraced their Jewish identity as part of their past and part of their legacy.
Speaking about anti-Semitism, do you think that it still exists and does it pose a real threat right now?
In Poland or throughout the world?
In the Western society, USA.
Anti-Semitism exists everywhere and has always existed. At the end of 1939, an old Jewish man in Germany goes to a travel agent and says, I'd like to leave Germany. And the travel agent pulls out a globe. Where do you want to go? Well, they go to that country. They don't take Jews. They go to that. They don't take Jews. They don't take Jews. That country. They don't take Jews. Every country he points to, they don't take Jews. Finally, the old Jewish man looks at the travel agent and says, excuse me, maybe you have another globe. Right? The whole world was anti-Semitic. Unfortunately, I have a website. I think we have with all sorts of Holocaust-related videos. Maybe there's close to 600,000 hits at this point. Almost every day I have to take off comments denying the Holocaust, anti-Semitic comments, anti-Israel comments. So it's still a problem. I mean, not just anti-Semitism, racism is still a problem. It seems to be part of the human fabric, part of the human impulse to scapegoat and blame others. So I think, yes, anti-Semitism is still a problem, racism is still a problem, and it will always be a problem for the foreseeable future, and we must take a stand against it each and every time it raises its head. Anti-Semitism and racism, same thing for me.
What should be done by institutions such as the Jagiellonian Center for Holocaust Studies to keep the memory and to teach people about it, and what to do to prevent such atrocities from happening?
First of all, as much as possible, bring witnesses to the university. Bring survivors, bring righteous among the nations, and have them speak to your students. We have a saying, when you listen to a witness, you become a witness. And when you hear the story from a survivor firsthand, when you hear them tell your story, you become their witnesses forever. And you are able to stand in 20 or 30 years from now when someone says the Holocaust never happened or genocide in Poland never happened. I was there. I spoke to a survivor. I know what it's like. The second thing I think we need to develop is teaching empathy, teaching compassion and teaching kindness, asking ourselves to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody else. Can I leave you with one last story? Romeo Dallaire, one of the only people in the world who tried to stop the genocide in Rwanda. One of the only people in the world who tried to stop the genocide in Rwanda. And the world knew what was going on. The Belgian soldiers, when they were leaving Belgium, they were asked by the Tutsis to shoot them because they knew they'd be hacked to death in a few weeks. And they didn't shoot them, and they were hacked to death in a few weeks. And they came back to Belgium, they took their berets, threw them on the tarmac and set them on fire because we have left a people to slaughter. So Romeo Dallaire tried to stop it from happening. He was a general, Canadian general in the United Nations. Didn't work. No one listened to him. He saved thousands, but not the 800,000 or so that were slaughtered. And he was so depressed, he tried to commit suicide when he came back to Canada over his inability to stop the genocide. But he tells a story. He was in a Rwandan village, and their entire village had been slaughtered except for one little boy. And he picks up the boy, he's bruised and battered, and he says to himself, what am I doing here? Thousands of miles away from home, completely different people, culture, everything's different. What am I doing here? And then you know what happened? He looked into the child's eyes. You know what he saw? The same eyes as his children at home, wanting protection and love and kindness and care and compassion. And he said, that's when I realized there was no difference between this child and my child. That's what I realized, that no human is more human than any other human. Think of that quote. No human is more human than any other human. And why do genocides happen? Why do Holocausts happen? Because we haven't figured out that simple fact that your humanity and my humanity are exactly equal. And that's what we need to teach. That simple line, no human is more human than any other human, to value all human life equally.